I never really resonated with the advice of, oh, you have to follow the money and the most lucrative career path. I have also not resonated with the advice of just follow your passion. And that's the thing that matters the most. You just need to love what you do. Because I love financial security and I love a certain quality of life. So, in this episode, I thought we'd explore the money versus passion aspect, especially from someone who's literally trying to navigate it as we speak. I just took a pause with my consulting job. I was working in a big four consulting company doing change management, and I'm now taking a career break to study dance full time. I'm now on a sabbatical, essentially from my consulting job, to just see if I can upgrade my dancing to the point where I can still do it part time, but have more options of what to do. Last week, I posted a video which was talking about my goals for the year, and there are quite a few in there that relate to career. One of them is financial, one of them is the split of my time between different things. And if you've not watched that, I'll link it below. But as a recap, my ideal scenario would be that I come out of this year with some sort of self-employed income, maybe from content, maybe from something else that I do part-time. And the rest of the time, I have the opportunity to take on dancer jobs, creative work. The financial goal that I have in particular is not actually to replace my consulting salary just yet, because I think that is not realistic in a year's time. But what I would love to see is something starting to take off, which I can see scaling, which maybe will even give me confidence to rethink what I do at the end of that sabbatical year. That's my situation, and maybe the place to start is, where do you get those beliefs from initially? I am Russian. I grew up in Russia, and I think a lot of Russian families have a lot of value placed in financial stability, because even the generation before me went through the breakdown of the Soviet Union and the stuff that came before that, the communist times, how hugely impactful it was to have the lack of things and not being able to get what you want, sometimes not being able to travel, sometimes not having the security of being able to get the food that you need for your family. So all of that still has a resonance these days. And I think even though my generation has not seen that firsthand, but you still feel like your upbringing reflects those values. And honestly, I'm not mad about it, because also if you're into astrology, which I'm not fully into, but I am a Taurus, and Taurus people are known to be valuing, what do you call them, the earthy pleasures, like a comfortable, nice home, massage, good food, all of those experiences. And that is very true for me. So I really enjoy a certain quality of life. And I think that determines my financial goals, as well as the way that I was maybe brought up and maybe the values were instilled in me. I also, alongside that, have always been very, very hardworking, not always working the smartest in terms of efficient, but always very persistent. And I think that's another thing that I layer on to those financial goals is, yes, even if I don't achieve it in a year, I still have a lot of ambition for where I want to get to in terms of where I get my finances from and how much I scale that. I do have, I think, very high standard for where I want to get to. But, it's a very painful journey to actually get there initially. On the other hand, I also, like a lot of people in our generation, if you're a similar age to me, if you're in your 20s, 30s, we are the generation that have the privilege of starting to think about meaningful work and enjoyment. And it will depend hugely on where you live, but in the UK, most of us will be quite lucky. And I can't deny that I do really want to at least somewhat enjoy what I'm doing. I think that's where my urge to break out of corporate and into self-employment comes from, because I have realized that a big factor in how I feel at work and how meaningful it feels is a sense of control. Maybe that's the control freakiness. If you can relate, let me know if it's the same for you. But I really feel like the work is more meaningful if I determine what I do and I don't just get given a thing which I maybe don't necessarily see as a useful thing to do. And sometimes that can happen in a corporate job as well, because I've had moments where I was taking more ownership of what the team was doing and the responsibility, and that ownership was actually quite nice. And I would love even more of it in terms of my whole work is mine. I had a period where I was taking a break from work, and I spent that break working on a personal project. I was making the guide for dancers with a 9 to 5, which is now live, and you can get it if you'd like. And I was going to the library every single day and putting in, quite honestly, not less work hours than I would at my corporate job. But the way it felt was insanely different. I think the satisfaction that I got from, first of all, determining my own day, and secondly, working on something that I know is for me. All that is to say that I care a lot about fulfillment. And I think to the detriment of my career in some ways, because a lot of generations before me are of the mindset that you get into a good place, you're at a good company, and then you climb the ladder there, and then your loyalty is rewarded. I think reality of our generation is that that doesn't actually happen. And especially the past few years, we've seen so many layoffs. It's actually insane. So many rounds of redundancies where people just lose their job that they thought was secure and stable and would value the loyalty. And actually, it turns out that not always do they value it. And sometimes you can just be reduced to a number. And if your number doesn't hit the metric that they had, then you're out, despite all the stuff that people might be saying about you that's positive, despite all the relationships you've built, all the impact you've had. That makes a lot of people of my age question whether it's actually worth staying at the same company or not. And a lot of people jump jobs every couple of years. I think that is kind of the standard practice these days, especially in the UK and Europe. And I don't know if in my home country would be the case, because we kind of lag a little bit in terms of the, cultural change and that sort of stuff. And it tends to be a bit more traditional. So there, maybe still you would kind of stick to a company if it's a good one. But here it's very normal to switch and to keep looking, keep trying different jobs. That usually increases your salary much more than it would if you were to just stay loyal. And also, it gives you an opportunity to iterate and make your job hopefully more fulfilling bit by bit, hopefully a bit better with work-life balance, but it depends on the person and the company and how lucky you get. But all that is to say that my generation is way more used to search for that fulfillment, but we're also way more used to search for that financial upgrade every single time that we switch jobs, which is very tough, because what I've realized is that they always say that, find something that you're good at, find something that you enjoy, and something that you'll be paid for, and something that and all of that stuff tends to overlap very rarely, unless you maybe do some exploration and you eventually land on a thing that somehow combines all of that stuff, and it might not be what you expected. But the journey to figure it out is really freaking long and uncertain, and you can never really know if you'll get there or not. So for me, the shape that this has taken is my passion is dancing and creative industries, and they do not pay well. I wish my passion was in something like software development or some IT skills or AI, but it really isn't. It's in an industry that on average pays very little and is also quite volatile. I'm in a bit of a position where my passion is taking me to a completely different goal financially than what I want. I want stability, and I do want a very good level of income to sustain enough of a quality of life that I enjoy, to also save for the future, to also save for emergencies, traveling home, and all of that stuff. So I have had to kind of tread very carefully and understand how the hell do I navigate this, where there's the thing that I really love and also other careers that I don't love that would give me a better financial situation. The way I have done it so far is I started performing as a dancer alongside my corporate job, and I really loved it. I really loved it and I enjoyed so much, but it also made me realize that I just would love to do even more dancing, even more creative work. And I'm craving to get better, but I can't get better in the time that I have left out of my job, especially because it's so demanding, unpredictable one in terms of work-life balance and hours. all of it comes down to the project that you're on, the team that you're with. And if you're curious about that, I can leave a few videos in the description so that you can hear me talk about the work-life balance in consulting. So it's quite tricky. And the decision to take a career break was one of the riskiest ones I have ever made in my life so far. And, out of a list of things like moving countries and being alone by yourself when you're 17 and all of that sort of stuff. And I think this still feels riskier because it breaks the conventional path of just climbing the corporate ladder. And I know that a lot of people have taken the leap to kind of, just quit the job without a plan. And there were so many videos coming out on YouTube about it. I think in my brain, reason why I have all these financial goals for this year is because I could not handle this for much longer if I'm not seeing some more security coming back in. And that would be in the form of earning, because taking the leap without a plan honestly sounds like a terrifying thing for me, for the person who really likes certainty, who really likes control. It also is very objectively risky. It's a risk that you would probably only take if you have insane self-belief. And I think I am not the strongest in self-belief. I really like myself and my work ethic, and I believe in my persistence. But I wish I had a bit more of that, the delulu belief that, of course, I'll get there. Obviously, my channel will be earning by the end of the year. It's very hard to be that sort of person, and I've always admired people who can. So it's part of the journey to work on the mindset that comes with it. But what I mean by this is I cannot see myself just quitting everything and having no backup plan. For now, my backup plan is coming back to the same job that I left. I want to say that the money versus passion is not a clear-cut journey of just choosing one or the other, and I have found it very complicated to try and find the right balance between the two that kind of gets both. It's having your cake and eating it, and I think finding that sort of stuff sometimes takes a lot of time investment and energy investment, because what I'm doing now is, alongside a full-time dance training schedule, I'm also dedicating a ton of time to content on Instagram and now on YouTube again, because I took a bit of a break. But it requires some sacrifices where I could have been lounging right now, going to a park and having a nice time in the sun, which maybe I'll still catch later, who knows. But you kind of have to do a bit of a short-term-ish grind to be able to have a more complicated but more fulfilling option. So the overlap between the passion and the money and the stability and the security. And even then, you're not guaranteed to get it. My main aim with this video was to just share a stream of consciousness about this topic, because I know that so many people go through the exact same dilemma of, do I go for something stable, secure, that brings me money, or do I go for something that brings me passion? And the other thing to say is that not always will those things be separate. There will be people for who that will actually be possible in quite an easy way. For example, if your passion is to, do marketing for a big corporate firm, then it's very easy for you to be having a passion and earning the money. It just happens that for many people, the passion is something creative that is often underpaid, and the security and the money is in something else. If you are in the same boat, I would love to hear your thoughts. I would love to hear what your passion is and what your moneymaker option is and how you've been navigating those. And if you have any particular topics for the next episode, then do let me know in the comments. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.